You're watching the WINFL show. I'm Ian McKinnon here with Patrick Jackson, Mr. Jake McGee, and we are joined by the returning guest, a firm favourite here on the WINFL show, author, Mr. Ben Isaacs. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Really good. Now, do you mind if I just refer to you as an author? Because obviously you do so many other things.
However you want to describe me. I thought you were going to say you're happy with me just calling you Ben rather than say Mr. Isaacs. I would prefer. The only person who's called me Mr. Isaacs and kind of done it for a period of time was the author James Ellroy, where I interviewed him, and when he sat, where I could see that it was him, and I stood up from the table at this diner in West Hollywood, and I said, "Mr. Ellroy?" And he said, "Mr. Isaacs," and he referred to me as Mr. Isaacs. We met up 2 days in a row for stuff, and then he came and did something in London, and again, still Mr. Isaacs. But you can call me Ben.
Wonderful. I'm glad we're on first name terms. That's always a good thing. Now, Ben, it's a 17-week season, which is rubbish, but it's 18 weeks.
Well, it's an 18-week season. It's a 17 game
season. So with 18 weeks, we're 9 weeks through. We're at the halfway point.
Check out Carol Vorderman here. All right.
Yeah.
Two from the top, please.
Hey-o.
Halfway. I should never have started this. We're at the halfway point in the season. So there's a lot of things that we don't know yet. You'd think we would know by now, but we don't know who's good. We don't know who's bad. We don't know who's going to win each week.
We know some of who's bad.
We know some of it. We know some of it. But your Chicago Bears, Ben, are a team who are a bit of an enigma. But generally speaking, I think most people would be in agreement. The Bears are a pretty good team.
They're a pretty good team. I think that's fair. They're a pretty good team. It's been strange how there have been games this season where the defense has been amazing, so many takeaways, and they have bailed out the offense when they've not played well. But it's not actually a good defense. The defense has papered over the cracks by being quite a ball hawk defense in certain games. The defense that was on display against Cincinnati on Sunday, and you can't spell insanity without Cincinnati. Just look it up. The way the Bears defense played in that game, that is the Bears defense. That isn't like, that was just a freak accident. No, that's the Bears defense against good wide receivers. That's what happens. It is the Bears secondary is completely decimated with injuries, and that's an area of strength on the defense. But they've just got so many injuries there. The front seven are just not particularly good, really. They're just not enough playmakers there. Yeah. So it's a team that's quite easy to run on. You can pass the ball on them, especially if you're kind of they can't cover slot receivers. And the offense, though, is now they've got the run game going, is looking at certain points like a well-oiled machine. Caleb is still very much improving. You can see that this is he's on his third head coach and fourth offensive coordinator in his NFL career. So I don't want to say you give him a pass, but you've got to accept that he's gone through all these changes, and let's see how he is by the end of this season. I like what I see. I hated the rushing attack at the start of the season. Ben Johnson, they had an early bye. I hated the fact they had an early bye. Ben Johnson from the beginning was like, the early bye is good for us because there's certain things we don't know that we don't know. That bye will come along and then we can fix them. And they came out of the bye and all of a sudden they can run the ball. They changed how they were running the ball, how they were doing their run blocking, and it's just, now it's changed. And the DeAndre Swift, who I'm not a massive fan of, he just started going off. And then the Bengals game, he was injured, and Kyle Morongai came in, and he was incredible. And I don't think he's necessarily an incredible player. That is partly the Bengals' defense, but the Bears seem to know what they're doing running the ball right now. I like what I see. I think they're going to probably just miss out on the playoffs. It's a very tough division, but needle is pointing upwards. They've got a reasonably young team, but there's a lot of holes on that defense that are going to need to be fixed in the draft and free agency once this season is over.
Yeah, and you mentioned Caleb Williams said he is definitely looking better, looking a little more consistent. He's still taking a few more sacks than I would like to see.
Yes.
But, and you'll be delighted to hear that, after 8 games, or you've had played 8, that's right. After 8 games, he's on course to pass for over 4,000 yards. So you'll never have to hear that. Chicago Bears quarterbacks, you'll never have to hear that again if he does that.
It'll just be that, did you know the Bears have only had one quarterback for over 4,000 yards? It'll just be spun in a different way. And it is fair. You can look at the Bears like, oh, they've got more players in the Hall of Fame than anyone else. The Bears have been NFL champions the second most. The Bears have won more games than almost any other franchise. But in the modern NFL, you cannot compete on a consistent basis without at least a really good quarterback. It doesn't have to be elite. I'd say there's only 4 elite quarterbacks in the NFL, but you need a really good quarterback. I think the Bears have got a really good quarterback. And if they do, and Ben Johnson continues on his trajectory, then they're going to be a very fun team to watch for quite a long period of time.
Absolutely. Patrick?
Yeah, part of that enjoyment to watch is the emergence of young receivers like Rome Odunze. So I had a double question for you. One was, how do you put 47 points without any catches for Odunze? And what's going on with Luther Burden, who came in with quite a fanfare from the draft, but has not really established himself yet?
It's weird the way that the Bears just have accumulated pass catchers. So Rome Odunze, who obviously was coming into his second season, alongside DJ Moore, who started the season as wide receiver 1, and they had Cole Kmet at tight end. That, at the very least, as your 3 top pass catchers, that seemed good. And then they drafted Colston Loveland, another tight end. They drafted Luther Burden, and it's like there are only so many balls to go round. And really, I wanted them to take a running back. I wanted them to take an edge rusher. I like Luther Burden, but I didn't see where he was going to fit in. And the same with Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland had his breakout game on Sunday. He's Offensive Player of the Week for the NFC, but he got that opportunity because Cole Kmet went out of the game injured. Rome Odunze, coming out of college, one of his greatest strengths was his ability to win contested catches. And in the NFL, he has not managed to do that on a regular basis. I think he is the best receiver the Bears have, or at least going into the game against the Bengals, I would have said that. DJ Moore had a really good game. Rome didn't have a good game, but was barely targeted. The Bears were just doing something different. Admittedly, they were running the ball more. And for some of those catches, it was Caleb Williams. Like 4 different players threw a pass for the Bears this week, which is an unusual thing. Rome Odunze, I think, is going to have the odd quiet game because of the fact they are trying to spread the ball around, but he is, I think, their most talented wide receiver. And Luther Burden, it's that, but amplified. He's had one really good game where they've really used him. And I get that Ben Johnson will like to have these toys. He wants to have all these different pieces on offense, but they've just got too many, as far as I'm concerned. They've got too many. They can't get... if these are your playmakers, you want them on the field on almost every snap, and you can't. You can't have here are our 4 best wide receivers and our 2 best tight ends. Okay, well, that's not going to work. And yes, that means that, you can keep rotating, but I would rather have it that, okay, here's 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, and we're going to use them a lot. And they're not really doing that. Hopefully we'll see more Luther Burden, but I hope that doesn't happen because of an injury. I just hope there are more plays designed for him.
Yeah, agreed. I think the future seems pretty bright for the Bears, certainly brighter than it has for a while. But it's in a really intriguing division. You look across that division, you've got the Packers 5-2-1 leading the way, but Lions and Bears 5-3 just behind, and the Vikings keep tripping over themselves, but they're still somehow 4-4. How do you see this shaking out down the stretch? Who do you think is going to win this division?
The Packers win over the Lions in week 1 might actually be the best performance I've seen from any team this season, especially now knowing that the Lions are a really good team. Putting aside the fact they lost to the Vikings this past Sunday, the Packers looked so good in that game. They absolutely dominated the Lions, and it did make me think, oh, all those naysayers who felt the Lions were going to potentially fall off a cliff, maybe they're right. And obviously, we've seen from the Lions, they absolutely have not fallen off a cliff. The Packers, though, have not really impressed me since week 1. They were pretty atrocious against the Panthers. Jordan Love threw a pass that is as bad a pass as you'll ever see. He was flushed out of the pocket, threw across his body towards the only player, was a Panthers player, who somehow managed to not catch it, even though it was thrown directly at him and he had all the time in the world. It was terrible. The Packers still managed to lose that game despite that drop from the Panthers. The fact that the Packers can lose a game like that to a team like the Panthers at home does give me pause. And it's probably enough to make me think, I now think the Lions will win that division. I don't think the Bears or the Vikings have a hope in hell of winning that division. I think they're going to make it interesting, but I think it's got to be the Lions or the Packers. And I would say the Lions. The Packers should cruise into the playoffs anyway. The Vikings are interesting. JJ McCarthy, some people love JJ McCarthy. I don't yet love JJ McCarthy. And the conversations around JJ McCarthy are just doing my head in, to be honest. People want to make a judgment on JJ McCarthy. He's only completed 2 games in his career. That game against the Bears where the Vikings won, he was atrocious for 3 quarters. He had 1 good quarter. He did not win them that game. But that was the narrative, that JJ McCarthy, single-handedly beat the Bears on his debut at Soldier Field, where he grew up as a Bears fan. Nonsense. The Vikings did not win that game simply because of him. He didn't have a bad final quarter, but he was bad before that. He wasn't fantastic against the Lions. Is he their best quarterback? Probably. But I cannot have any judgment on him 2 games into his career, 2 completed games into his career. Some people want to. We'll know a hell of a lot more about him at the end of the season. And I think that the Vikings will go as far as he can take them. I think they're going to hover around 500 for the rest of the season. I think his inexperience will hold them back at certain times, but I think they'll end up winning a couple of games you don't expect them to, and probably losing a couple of games you don't expect them to. I think they'll be around a kind of 9-8 sort of team. I think the Bears probably the same. Maybe the Bears can get to 10, but I just don't see them being able to keep up with the Packers and Lions.
Plausible, and that's still maybe slightly ahead of the preseason curve, I thought, for them. So it's positive.
Yes.
Jake, you wanted to talk trades?
Yeah, well, speaking of trades, Packers kind of have to win this division, or at least go very deep in the playoffs, because they mortgage their future with trades for Micah Parsons. And you could say that's worked out pretty well for them, but we'll see going forward. But we had the trade deadline yesterday, and there was some very interesting big trades. So we'll get Ben's thoughts on the big ones, at least. I won't bore you with, Jasir Taylor being, traded, but I will get your thoughts on Sauce Gardner going to the Colts for a 2026 first, a 2027 first, and Adonai Mitchell or AD Mitchell. The worst part of this trade for me, Sauce Gardner will wear the number 1, which means Josh First Downs will now wear number 2, like his brother Caleb. So I'm putting forward Josh No More Second Downs as his new nickname.
With this trade, I feel the Jets won the trade. I feel the Colts overpaid. The Colts had to overpay. This is it. They are pushing all their chips into the table and saying, we are in win now mode. And they absolutely should be in win now mode. They've got no idea what Daniel Jones is going to be next season. We've seen it before. We saw with Sam Darnold, he turned into a pumpkin at the end of the Vikings season. We don't know the future for Daniel Jones, because we've seen more downs than we've seen ups. It's been fantastic so far. He's played really well, and it's not all down to him, obviously. Jonathan Taylor is perhaps the real NFL MVP of the season so far, although he got completely bottled up against Pittsburgh on Sunday. The Colts are being super aggressive, and I like that, and I don't think they're crazy for giving up 2 firsts, even though I think they overpaid. If they can, and I'm not saying they're going to, but if they can win a Super Bowl in the next couple of seasons with this group, but then they're in salary cap hell and it all starts to go wrong, they will feel it was worth it. You know, that's how the Rams approached it when they signed Stafford, and they just went all in. Now, the fact that the Rams have been able to keep it going is something else and is absolutely incredible. But everyone thought they were going to fall off a cliff after they'd won that Super Bowl. I don't think the Colts would mind if that's the case. The Jets, with those 2 picks, they've obviously got to hope that the Colts do not go and win the Super Bowl, because otherwise one of those picks is going to be the 32nd pick, and it doesn't feel like such great value. But they accumulated so many picks yesterday. So many picks. And that's great, because, you know, you can really build for the future. But they gave up 2 really good starters. Now, are those 2 starters going to help them turn the franchise around? Probably not. You know, Sauce Gardner was already declining. And I get it. How much do I trust the Jets with all those picks to find game changers in the draft? Or how much do I trust them to draft a potentially game-changing quarterback and actually develop him in a way that means that he reaches his potential? I have zero faith in the Jets front office and ownership to make good use of those picks. So 2 things can be true. Number 1, the Jets won those trades and got exceptional value for those players. But also, it's a disaster for the Jets, because they won't replace them. They'll just make a mess of it, because this is what they keep doing. And I respect the fact they are going in full rebuild mode, but I just don't completely trust them to actually be able to rebuild. There was a rumor going around among Jets fans during the trade deadline day that the Jets were accumulating all these picks to make a blockbuster move to sign Joe Burrow. Now, Jets fans, if you had actually bought into this idea, then you are out of your mind. And it's the Jets who did that to you. So I'm not going to hold you responsible. But the idea that the Bengals would trade Joe Burrow, even an injured Joe Burrow, and in effect just punt on their short to midterm future by giving their best player to a conference rival is wild. It was never going to happen. But this is the sort of thing that Jets fans are clinging to because they've been messed around by the team so much.
I mean, we saw with like the draft way. You look at that 2022 draft, and it's great. But half those players are now off the team. The quarterback's the issue, and it's going to be hilarious when they end up with Kyler Murray. Like they're not going to end up drafting a quarterback. They're going to have all these picks, and they're going to end up taking Kyler Murray.
I think they're going to do both. I think they are going to sign a veteran quarterback, and they are going to draft a quarterback in the first round. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll fall in love with a quarterback, and they will trade so they can get the first overall pick if they somehow don't already have it. I don't think there's a quarterback that anyone is absolutely in love with to the point of like, that's the guy. Everyone is going to be competing to get the first overall pick to get him. But yeah, whether it's Kyler Murray or whether it's another veteran who has just hit a brick wall somewhere, I think that's what they'll need to do, because I don't think they'll have the pieces in place to put a rookie starter on that team and not have their confidence get absolutely destroyed.
That's a very good point there. I mean, this is the Jets we're talking about. And, you know, if they'd be more likely to get Russell Wilson than Kyler Murray.
Copy all of the Giants' homework, come on.
But that would be the more Jets thing to do, would be to get someone like that, and the fans were like, oh, for goodness sakes, what are we doing here? Or if they did offer 5 first-round picks for for Joe Burrow, the Bengals should take that and go, well, that's going to be 5 number 1 overall picks. So we'll just take that. We might as well do that. Because it's the Jets.
And hopefully you can replace Joe Burrow with Joe Burrow at that point.
Well,
no.
That's not how it works.
There's so much luck involved when you are trying to draft a quarterback in the first round. And I would say there's only 4 elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and Joe Burrow is one of those 4. You hang on to him for dear life. You do not let him go anywhere. The others, obviously, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. You do not let them go anywhere, because the chances of you locking into the next elite quarterback are so remote that I don't think there's any package of picks in the world. Now, you can look at the Bengals and say, well, Joe Flacco's done okay there. So how good is Joe Burrow? They're not winning a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and they're not even getting to a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. They did get to a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. And I think if Joe Burrow was healthy, they would be a Super Bowl contender right now. That Super Bowl window stays open for a long time if you've got an elite quarterback. For anyone else, it's like the Colts. It's like, oh, there's the window. We've got to try and squeeze through it because we can almost see it closing. You know, during that Steelers game, if you would kind of envisage a literal window, that window was sliding down during that game as you saw the Colts' deficiencies exposed. Because you can't look at that team and think, well, okay, well, yeah, Daniel Jones might have a blip, but we know what Daniel Jones is. We know he's going to come good. We know he can't have 2 bad games in a row. So, although I've got confidence in the Colts and I think they can have a deep playoff run, that's the difference between them and, say, the Bengals with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, where he is practically irreplaceable.
It's a very valid point there, Ben. Now, before we don't want to keep you, know you're busy, but before we get your random start off you, there's something I need to address. So, the last time Ben was on, we were doing our NFC North deep dive. And we had our record predictions. I don't know if you remember this, but I got a lot of pelters because I'd suggested that the Minnesota Vikings would only win 4 games this year. And I was torn to shreds. But my reasoning was, because obviously they're going to win more than 4 now, they've already won 4 games. My reasoning was I didn't know what to expect from J.J. McCarthy. And Mr. Isaacs, which I'm calling you from now on, Mr. Isaacs said to me, yes, but, you know, the Vikings won 13 or 14, I forget how many it was last year, with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. And I said, yeah, but, you know, Sam Darnold, pretty good when he's not on the Jets or the Panthers. I just have to get your opinion on how he's playing at the Seahawks, Ben. Because, my goodness, did you watch that game against Washington?
Oh,
that first half.
Yeah. Absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Sam Darnold has blown me away this season.
Oh.
More so than last season.
Oh, definitely.
Because last season, it's like, well, Kevin O'Connell might have the most quarterback-friendly team in the NFL. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. It's going to be difficult for the Seahawks to replicate that situation. And I saw Seahawks fans at the start of the season being so excited about Sam Darnold, feeling like this is a massive upgrade. And plus, if he thought he was in a good situation in Minnesota, wait till he comes here. And I thought, these people are crazy. Because the easiest place to play quarterback is the Minnesota Vikings. Because they can win with any sort of quarterback because of the setup they've got there. Well, you know, got egg on my face there because Sam Darnold's actually better this year. Now, Jackson Smith and Jigba may be the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. I don't think he's as good as Justin Jefferson, but there's no argument that JSN is having a better season.
Yeah.
He is clearly the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. Part of that is Sam Darnold. It isn't simply that, oh, okay, well, his life's easy because he's got JSN. And of course, they added Rashid, and that is a team feeling like, okay, we've got our window as well because we don't know how long this Sam Darnold will be this Sam Darnold and when he might become end of the Vikings season Sam Darnold or Panthers Sam Darnold or, God forbid, Jets Sam Darnold. I love what I've seen from him. It has been absolutely fantastic. However, you may have said that 4 wins for the Vikings. They are probably still going to end up with a winning record. So that prediction was still absolutely diabolically. Absolutely diabolical.
So I was both wrong and right at the same time. I'll take that.
You were.
That's a married man right there.
I'll take that.
You were right to have that confidence in Sam Darnold. I don't know why you had such confidence at the time, but you did, and you have absolutely been vindicated. But that 4-win prediction for the Vikings, I mean, as a Bears fan, I'd find it hilarious if you're correct now, but I would say they're probably going to win at least one more game in the next 2 months.
It's likely. It's likely. I couldn't have you on and not talk about that performance from Sam Darnold. My goodness, that might be the best first half I've ever seen a quarterback play, because it wasn't like, oh, he had 100% completion percentage, but it was 4-yard slants and screen passes. He was slinging it, absolutely slinging it. And you're right, JSN and the wide receiver room in Seattle is now one of the MVPs of the league. That is unbelievable what they've got going on there. So, yeah, fair dues to Sam Darnold over in Seattle. Now, Ben, do you have a random stat?
I do. And what I like to do is I like to give you college football random stats, in part because it gives me a point of difference. Mm-hmm. It lets me plug the College Days podcast, but also lots of other people will be coming on with their NFL stats. But the problem is I can't remember which ones that I have given you. So I know that I had one about ridiculous rushing average that Barry Sanders put up at Oklahoma State. And I've got 2 stats about the rivals to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and that's the Oklahoma Sooners. And I've got one about rushing, and I've got one about wins. I'm going to go with the wins one, and I'll have to save the other Oklahoma one. And it's just that the greatest winning streak in history was Oklahoma in the 1950s. 47 wins in a row. 47 wins, 22 shutouts in that time. In 35 of those 47 wins, the opposition didn't even get into double figures. It is an unreal record. They then lost to Notre Dame. They were 19-point favorites, lost to Notre Dame 7-0. What a game that must have been. An absolute thriller. And no one has ever come close to that 47 wins in a row. You wouldn't even guess which team is second with 35 wins. It's Toledo. Toledo won 35 between 1969 and 1971, but early 2000s Miami and then USC almost immediately afterwards, they both won 34 in a row, which is pretty amazing. But imagine like an NFL team winning 47 in a row. That's the best part of 5 seasons in college football at that point. It's stretched. So
that's insane.
Shout out to the 1950s Oklahoma Sooners.
There you go. My word. Thank you very much, Ben. Did either of you have a last question for Ben before we say goodbye?
It's not quite Bill Goldberg, though, is it? 173-0, Big Bill.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, fair.
About 4 of them televised, but that's not the point.
It can't compete with that. I mean, I would say that all those Oklahoma wins were totally legitimate. But who's to say? Who's to say? I wasn't around. Who's to say some of these weren't scripted? Who knows? Who knows?
Absolutely.
Who would win then out of Bill Goldberg and the 1950s Oklahoma Sooners, though?
Oh,
Jake, you offered this one. Go on, tell us.
In a wrestling match, I'll take Bill Goldberg. In a football game, I'm taking them by the Sooners by a cricket score.
Yeah, as long as it's not 1 versus 53 when he's wrestling.
A gauntlet match,
My goodness. Do you know something? I was watching the other day, myself and Jake were watching a bit of college football. I forget who it was, Jake. I'm sure he'll be able to tell me who it was.
It was Ole Miss.
Oh, that's right. It was the Ole Miss game. Okay. And the band.
Oh.
It's relentless. They never stop. And even when, like, the home team's on offense, those bands are playing. And you could even see the quarterbacks going, can't hear a damn thing with this band going on.
Yeah, when you are there at a stadium, I mean, it is probably better in the South. When you're there in the stadium and it's a big game and the fans are obviously so into it. A lot of the fans are students. There's a section that's purely for students and they are obviously just going crazy the entire time. They've been drinking all day. The band, I love a college band, and the work that they put in and the hours they put in and all the traveling that they have to do. And obviously they are not as pampered as the players. And when I was in Manhattan, Kansas, just about a year ago, the band have this tradition where the night before the game, they, in effect, it's like, I was going to say they go on a pub crawl. They're not having any drinks, but they are going into all the bars that the fans go in, and they just kind of storm in, and you've got this band like marching through the bar. There's barely any room, and they are playing at full volume, and they just kind of snake their way out. Like, you know in advance where they're going to be and at what sort of time, and so people will go and they'll, be there to see them. But a college football band, it's a thing of beauty, but they do sometimes go overboard. Oh, and sometimes, of course, they will do some sort of display at halftime on the field, and they'll be in formation. So there was controversy at a Kansas State game where they had the band in the shape of a Kansas Jayhawk. So that's the mascot of their big in-state rivals, the University of Kansas. Or Kansas University, I should say. It's KU, not UK. So they had this Jayhawk, and then the rest of them who are in formation appeared to be in the shape of a, let's just say, cartoon penis that was then going into like the Jayhawk's mouth. Now, they got in trouble for this, and they said it was actually the Starship Enterprise.
Obviously.
Of course it would be. Of course.
They've been mixed up before, speaking from experience.
Yeah. Is that the Starship Enterprise in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me?
Happy to see.
What are you watching? Star Trek.
Yeah. So, shout out to all college bands and everything that they get up to.
Quite right. Well, listen, Ben.
The fact we started with, we won't keep you for too long, and we ended with random college band trivia.
I was just about to do my goodbyes, and you interrupted me, Patrick. Ben, thank you very much for joining us. Do appreciate it. Always enjoy having you here on the WINFL show. And we'll see you, hopefully, shortly, soon, I should say. Maybe before the Super Bowl?
Yes, I'm sure I will make time for you, Ian. I love coming on, and I mean it. I know that Jake doesn't believe that I mean it, but I do mean it. I enjoy coming on, despite all evidence to the contrary. So yeah, you let me know, and I will always do my best.
Yeah, well, of course, Jake's got his trophy to defend. He doesn't actually have a trophy yet, because whoever wins 2, the trophy will get. You want to take that off, Ben? The first guy to win 2 in a row gets a trophy named after them. You know this.
I mean, that would be something.
Jake won last year. It's currently the Jake McGee Trophy. Whoa, can't let that happen, Ben. Come on. Let that happen. But yes, once again, huge thanks. I hope you enjoy the rest of the season. And we know you're a busy man, so thanks for taking your time out and speaking to us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Isaacs.